today we're going to just go over how can we turn our outlined fonts. As you can see, I've developed these fonts in Illustrator, and they've been turned into outlines, as you can kind of see here. So how does one take these outlines in Illustrator and actually turn them into a font that can be used for typing? So for instance, something that I can just, so you can kind of see here, just start writing. I have an example of that here. Let's make it 72 points. And this is an example of my font. So how do we actually create the actual font using these outlines? So I'm just going to kind of go through that right now and how I went about doing it. So first things first, what we're going to need to do is take these finished fonts. You can see I've got my X height for all my letters correct. Got an extra letter Z here, so I'm just going to get rid of that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all these fonts without the guides and copy them over into just a blank area. And then what I'm going to do is going to go to File. I'm going to create a new document. And this time I'm going to actually make it 1,000 pixels by 1,000 pixels. So instead of inches or points, how we've been, we're going to switch it to pixels. And the reason why is because the font program that we're going to be using is looking for 1,000 by 1,000 pixels, or at least 1,000 height. And so we're going to just hit Create here. And now we're going to Command R so that we can see the rulers. You can also go to View and then Show the rulers and hide the rulers. Somewhere in here. I'm assuming it's in here, but Command R is how I always remember it because, you know, can't find it. Anyway, once you have a ruler, what I'd like you to do is pull down all the way to around 700. When you let go, your Properties panel will tell you exactly where the height of this ruler is, and you can see it's 775, but I'm going to type 700 just so that I know it's exactly at 700. Then I'm going to pull another ruler down to about the 300 mark here. And again, I'm going to use the Properties panel to exactly type 300 pixels for the height. And so this will be the X height for all the letters. So I'm going to zoom out a couple times. And what I'm going to do is go back to my alphabet. I'm going to select the first, I'll just select all of it, comma, copy it, Command C. And then what I'll do is Command V and paste it in. And you can see that this is nowhere near the X height that we need to be. So I'm just going to go to my selection tool. Don't know how this happened. Let's go back here and get the letters again. Let's see, copy and paste. Okay, now we've got it. And what I'm going to do is select everything, and I'm just going to, holding the Shift key down, expand everything. Zoom out a couple times until the X height of my letters are the correct height. So again, I'll be careful not to select the guides because you don't want to change the size of those guides. So again, I'm just moving these around. I'm looking at the letter G here and just trying to get that G to like align the on top and below. And once it's pretty correct, just needs a little bit more size. Again, holding the Shift key scales everything, and that looks like about right. The letter H is a little bit big, G is a little small. I'm going to pull it down just a tiny tad bit, and like you can see the F here, I'm going to use the arrow key to scooch it up just a little tiny bit smaller. Being pretty anal, but you know, since we're actually going to go through a lot of work to make this. Okay, that looks like the letters, the top of the H, the shoulder here touches the X height, the F hits the F. Everything else looks just the way I had it before. And so we're just going to start right there. I'm not going to need these guides again anymore, so I'm going to delete them. And I'm going to go to my artboard, and I'm just going to stretch this out to like something like this, just so I have at least some of my letters on the artboard. If I wanted to, I can also pull it open like this, but I'm just going to leave it at 1,000 heights. This way I know exactly that these are correct. Okay, now I'm going to go to File, Export, or Save As, File, Save As, and this time I'm going to save it as an SVG file because this is what the program needs. I'm going to put it on our desktop, and I'm going to call it 4 fonts, ONTS for fonts 2020. And I'm going to save it as an SVG file. And since there's only one artboard, it's only going to save the one artboard. An SVG file is a little bit like, and the default seems to be okay, so I'm just hit OK. An SVG file is just a vector file like Illustrator or PDF, but it's what the program was going to want to use. Okay, I've exported this. So now I'm going to go online, and I'm going to go to glyphRstudio.com. And then you should see this right here. And I'm just going to scroll down until it says Online Studio. And we're going to just work online. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'm going to name my font for Font 2020. And I'm going to start from scratch. Okay, and what you should get is this window right here, as you can kind of see. And so how does this work? Well, what we're going to be needing to do is pull in that SVG file into this area. And then what we're going to do by hand, one at a time, is place each letter into this space. And so I'm just going to go ahead and show you. Now, normally you would start with the letter A, capital, and work all the way through all of these Latin-based fonts and glyphs and those kinds of things. We're just going to do the set from A to Z. And then what we're going to do is duplicate the letter A with what's in this A. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Now you'll notice that you can draw the fonts out by hand, but again, I'm just going to use the selection tool, and that's the letter V if you want to jump to that. And now I'm going to go and select a font that I know I don't have, like this ampersand. I'm just going to select it. This will allow me, when you can jump back, you'll see that it'll be highlight. This is the area that I'm going to just be pasting my SVG file into, and then eventually we'll delete all the letters out of that. This is the way I found to do it. So we're going to go back to this little triple hamburger sign, and we're going to go to Import SVG button. So click on that, and then go ahead on your desktop and find the font SVG file. Go ahead and place it right there. And then make sure that these two elements, Scale Imported SVG and Move Imported SVG, are unchecked. That's important because we've already set all the sizes correctly, so I don't want the auto size at this point. Scroll down and click Import SVG. You'll see 34 shapes for mine copied in because of inside and outside type of shapes, even though there are only 26 letters. Now go back to the little hamburger icon in the upper left. And what we're going to do is go into the glyph edit mode, and we're going to scroll down, and you'll see right away that in the ampersand sign, all our letters are actually imported, as you can kind of see. And the X height of all of them is on the X height line. You can kind of see the line here. In fact, what I can do is increase the guide transparency, or decrease its transparency, just so you can see how it's set up a little bit better. And I can decrease the guide transparency here. And again, I got to that on this side. So I'm going to click back to my ABC button here. And what we're going to do is, the next step is we need to turn these things into compound paths. So for instance, if I click on the letter B and I move it around, do you see how the hole stays where it is? Because the hole itself, I'm going to undo this, Command Z. Oops. Redo. Redo typing. So for whatever reason that disappeared. Let's re-import that. Import SVG. It's already there. Import. And there it is. And then go back to our editing glyph, and there they are. And go to my selection tool. So as you saw with the B, it's two different parts. So what you need to do is you need to hold the Command key down and select the inside piece as well as the outside piece, so it all becomes one thing. And then you're going to click on this little button right here that turns the shape into a compound instance. And when you do that and you click on it, you'll notice that now it selects the entire thing. Now the letter A has no inside or outside. The letter C is good. Obviously the letter D has an inside. You can kind of see it right here. And holding the Command key down allows me to select the outside as well and then turn that into a compound shape. And what you're going to do is just go through all of these letters and look for instances where you have two different pieces. Like for this letter M, I'm going to zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. The spacebar, by the way, kind of moves you over. You can kind of see. And you notice that there's a little piece that's not selected when I click the M. That means it's a separate, like it's a whole. So again, holding the Command key, now I'm able to select both of those and turn it into a compound shape. Let's see, what else do we have here? The letter W has the same issue. Command key, and now I can turn that into a compound shape. Holding the space bar, moving around. The letter S has a little issue here, so we're again, select the outside, hold the Command key, select the inside. Compound shape, Q, obviously. And finally P as well, compound. And the letter O is a lot like the letter I in this case. This is a separate thing that moves, right? And we don't want that. We want it to actually be all one shape. So let's just move this back to where it was. Burp. Yep, that looks good. So selecting that and then holding the Command key. Now we have two pieces selected. And this would be the same technique you would use for the letter I or anything that has separated shapes. Okay? Hopefully your font isn't too complex. Otherwise this is going to be problematic. So at this point, we've got everything set up and ready to copy and paste into the individual letters. So let's get started. Using our selection tool, let's select the letter A and Command C or copy on the Mac, or you can use this button right here. That allows you to copy just by clicking on it. Going back to the letters and now selecting the letter A here. And now all we're going to do is Command V to paste it in. First the selection tool and then paste. And you'll notice that it's at the baseline is correct, but you're going to be moving this over to this little line that's not the left hand or the left hand side, but it's about 20 pixels in. That'll give your fonts a little bit of separation, and you'll notice that on the right hand side you've got 20 pixels. Once you've done that, everything is good to go. It's touching the bottom. You can kind of see. Just make sure it's right there where you want it to be. So again, I'm looking for this area. I'm not resizing, I'm just moving this around. Once you're happy with that, go back to the letters A, B, C here, and you'll notice that you've now placed your letter A. You're going to do the same thing for the letter B. You're going to go here. Now because A was already selected and I set it up, I'm just going to select it and hit the delete button. That gets rid of that. I'm going to select the compound letter B, copy it, Command C, go back to the letter B, use my selection tool, right, and then paste, Command V. Oh, it looks like I got the wrong one. Undo. Just delete that. Let's see, what did I not do? Must have forgot to select copy. So again, you can copy it using this thing here, just by clicking on it or Command C, and then going to the letter B and using the selection tool, paste, and there's the B. You're going to bring it into the baseline corner here, just like before. You can always zoom in if you want. And take your time here. And you'll see it's like not right on the left-hand side. It's 20 pixels in. And then you got 20 pixels here as well. And then you continue that again. Go back out to ABC. You got the B. And you go through this process. Get rid of the B now that I know it's good to go. Hit delete. Select the letter C. Copy it. Go here to the letter C. Selection tool. Paste it. Let's see. I'm going to zoom out. Sometimes you paste and it pastes way over here, right? And that's because that's where it was located before, and you have to bring it in to this area. I'm going to zoom back in so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to show you how to avoid that. I wish it wasn't the case. This looks good. So going back out to the letter C. So let's get the letter D now. So, and you can kind of see that the letter C is way out here, right? So if I were to copy the D, it's going to paste it way out here and not near this baseline. So what I'm going to do is just move this over here temporarily, right? And then copy it. Click here or Command C. And then jump to here and then the letter D here. Use my selection tool and then paste it. And you'll notice that it pastes it exactly where I copied it. So I'm already where I needed to be. Perfect, right? So let's continue this. Go back here. Scroll down, go to the letter D here. I've already selected that, so get rid of it. And then I'm going to move the E over, just so it's in about the right place. I'm going to copy it right here, letter E here, and then I'm going to paste it, Command V. Or I could even use this clipboard if I wanted to, right? And that's going to do the same thing as Command V. Oops, that did it twice. Use my move tool and move it so that it sits perfectly where it needs to be. Notice how, yeah, that's good. And you're going to go through all the letters in the alphabet until you get to the letter Z, all right? Once you get to the letter Z, what I'd like you to do is now populate the lowercase letters with the same as the uppercase. Now, instead of doing this this way again, you're obviously not going to be able to, because you won't have any letters left, because you will have been deleting them. So there is a trick, right, to doing this. So, and here I will show you the trick. I'm going to just go ahead and place this, Command C, to copy, and then I'll have an entire row of letters to start with to show you how to do that next part. Okay, that's pasted in. Notice how the X height here is the X height that's correct. That's because we set it up in Illustrator. Okay, going back here, the way you populate these guys is you click on the letter A, right? And you don't paste anything in here. What you do is you're going to click on this button, Get Shapes, right? And this was going to actually open up a window, and it's going to say, hey, what do you want this one to be that you already have? Well, I want it to be this. So you click on it, and it's perfectly set up and good to go. And you just keep going, doing this again. Go to letter B, click on this clipboard with the letter in it, select the letter B, and then just keep going through this. And you can see how much faster this is because everything is already set up on the first pass. And then go back out, the letter D, and you get the idea, right? So, and once you have all those done, so let me see if I can jump to a finished product. Let's see, just gonna stay on the page. By the way, if you want to save what you've done, because you've spent a lot of time, I would definitely go down here to the little save icon, click out here, and then save this glyphRstudio project here. What that's going to do is it's going to download this project right here, so you'll be able to like work with it and those kinds of things. Now, I'm going to go ahead and open up one that kind of shows off what I've already done. I'm going to hit the load so you can see how this works. And I know that I saved it to my downloads folder already, and I called it Crescent Fonts. And I'm going to just move that here. And you'll see I've got all the letters already put in, and I've got all the smaller case letters as well, right? So this is where you want to be. Again, don't forget to save because there's a lot of work that went into this. Okay, go to the hamburger area. The next thing you want to do is you do a test drive to see how this is going to work, right? So you'll just say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. And you can kind of see that this is working out really nicely. Now, I do notice that the kerning for the letter J is like a little weird. In other words, I want this letter I and the letter J to actually scooch together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this triple hamburger here, and I'm going to go to kerning. And you can see I've already done a little bit of kerning. I'm going to add a new kerning pair here. And what I'm going to do is select the letter J, but also the uppercase J since they're both the same. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit the letter I and smaller and uppercase I, and I'm going to create a new kerning pair. And you can see, just going to move this here, that you see how far away the letter I is versus the letter J, right? And so what I'm going to do is just move this letter J, or this letter I, closer to the J. So you can kind of see now when these two letters are typed, they will actually be at this spacing, which will look better, I think, right? Now, the letter I is like something, but what about the letter A? Well, letter A as well. What about the letter B? The letter B as well, right? And you can see you're going to start adding in all the letters, C, D, E, F, G, H-I-J, not J, obviously, and not I, because we already got that. K-L-M-N-O-P. Now, P we're not going to add because, well, P we could add, but Q we're not going to add, because if we add Q, watch what happens. Q, I guess Q doesn't have a problem. I was worried about the line for Q going down quite a bit, but you can kind of see how this is going to look. So this is how they will, trying to get, like, zoom out here. Oh, for whatever reason, this changed from whatever it was. I'm going to just put it back at 0 here. Don't understand why the P and the Q are so far off here. There we go. G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, X, Y, Z. And you can kind of see how these letters are kerning. Now, if we leave the kerning pair and go back to test drive, you'll notice that the letter I is closer to the J. And in fact, if we do AJ, BJ, CJ, DJ, EJ, FJ, you see how the F and the J are a little bit far apart? So you would be kerning the F as well with the letter J. And anyway, you could go through a bunch of different possibilities for kerning and create these kerning pairs. And obviously you want to make sure that the letter A and the uppercase letter A are both kerned with both letters F and F or J and J. Okay, when you're about ready you're happy with what you see and you're ready to export your font, just go to Export Font. And what you're going to do is export it as an OTF font. So by clicking on this, it'll actually export your fonts with the name you named it. Now, if you want to change the name for whatever reason, go to Project Settings and change your project name here. So maybe I want to call this For Font 2020, because this is the last chance you get to do that. And now if I go to font settings, and you get a lot of other possibilities here. You've been using basic Latin, but you can see you can try different font types here. But you're going to export the font, again OTF, and this time it's going to export as you can see, Crescent 2020. I guess I didn't save the font settings here. Font name, For Font 2020. Let's make sure that it's correct. Yep, that's good. Now export the font, export OTF, and we should see that that now is For Font. And if we look at it and double click it, it'll show us the font itself. Notice that these are missing. That's because we did not put any letter or any numbers in. Normally it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 0. But let's go ahead and install this font by clicking Install Font. And now it will show up in your list of fonts right here. And you can see, again, missing characters. So you can actually use this font now in any text editing document. So for instance, I'm just going to delete this. I'm going to find my font, go to Show Fonts here, and it was called For Font 2020. So I'm scrolling down under all my fonts, For Font 2020, and I just selected it, and then I can just start typing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. As you can kind of see, it'll also work with lowercase. So I hit the return key, and I'll do uppercase actually, A, B, C. As you can see with the caps, doesn't really matter. Now here's a problem. If I were to type the number 1 or 2 or 3, watch what happens if I go back to the, it's just picking up Lucinda Grand here because it doesn't know what to do when you type stuff like a period or semicolon or you name it. Once you do that, it actually introduces this new font into the system. So my suggestion would be, if you have the time, add the numbers in, as well as some of the punctuation that's important. It doesn't have to be everything, but you should be able to add at least the numbers, a couple of these punctuation marks, and the more you fill in, the less likely somebody who's typing something will not get what they want. Sometimes you can even just add like a non-character, like a little circle or something. So if you wanted to go here and just add in a little circle like this, it'll type that circle even though, you know, that that font itself is supposed to be a bracket. But again, at least the numbers and a couple of the punctuation marks like period, exclamation mark, those kinds of things. Anyway, hope that helps, and hope you're able to create your font using this technique. Thanks.